Hey everybody, welcome back to another Krita tutorial. Today we're going to do like a look at the Krita beta for 5.2 and just kind of get like a sneak peek about what is updating with it. So I have played with it for a little bit and there are some changes. It is still a little buggy, I've noticed. I'm not sure if some of these will be fixed in the next beta round that they release, or if this is not a bug, which I won't know until it's officially out. So I'll point some of those things out. They're kind of minor. They're not like a big deal. They're not like you can't use the beta at all to do anything type of issue. But yeah, so as you can see, everything has drastically changed when you first open Krita. You have a nice big support bar up here, which I think is nice. If you have a couple extra dollars, 1 month, one paycheck, go ahead and send it to them. They definitely deserve it, and they definitely utilize every dollar that they receive. Like this, I always say it, but I'm always impressed with how Krita operates. They have a very good structure, and they're very on top of everything. They don't overpromise and then underdeliver. They underpromise and overdeliver most of the time. But anyway, so they have recent images here. So some spoilers here from my comic and other stuff I'm working on. But this is kind of nice because before it was just kind of like a smaller thumbnail with the file name that was more visual than the thumbnail. So this is kind of nice because then I can just like, I want to open that graveyard PNG I saved out and just click and open. So from an artist and visual learner standpoint, this is really nice. I can just click and go. So yeah, let's go ahead and open something we've opened before. So one thing I did notice, because I am working on a comic, I can't actually open any of the dockers and open the comics manager and go from there. I have to create a new file or open a file, and then I can activate any of these dockers. Now for most of them it's not that big of a deal, but for the comics manager it's kind of annoying. Again, I don't know if this is just a bug that they haven't like implemented the full software yet, or if this is kind of how it's going to go in the future. Just something to be aware of if you're like me and you need to open a comic page. So speaking of comics, we're going to just go ahead and open up a very old comic file I had. So when I did that, my comics manager did open up on my second monitor here automatically because I have it open when I close Krita, which is totally fine. It's nice that it's here. It's just kind of frustrating that I can't access it until I open a file. All right, so besides that minor annoyance that I have with it, which is totally just me, not a big deal, it's just me, there are a couple things that have changed with Krita. So over here in the layers panel, we have checkboxes. So this kind of like shows you visually which one you're on. Whoops. And which one you're currently on, which is actually kind of nice because any artist is going to know exactly how this feels when you're on the wrong layer and you're doing something and you just wasted a half hour's worth of work. So it's kind of nice to have this visual here for the checkbox. If you don't want it there, you can actually turn it off and go back to the old way. I'm actually going to leave that on because that is a very nice feature for me. And as always, you can always change the thumbnail size and stuff like that too. Okay, and another thing that's changed, so I'm going to turn this on. So this, I have another version of this page here. I don't know what I was doing with it. I think I was just changing page layout, but anyway. So I have that here. If I select both of these, in the past, I couldn't like move them together. Oh my god, look at the extra marks I have. Oops. If you don't know what these are, Krita like saves your data outside the canvas, so if you go to move it, all that data that you've put down there, like scribbles and stuff, that's where it stays. Just so you know, it's always been there, it's always been a thing. Anyway, but you can just click 2 layers and now move it together, which is good because that is one thing that I always found frustrating. I had to group everything and then I had to move it. So if I want to, let's move this whole chunk here. I can do this now without grouping it, which is extremely convenient because when you're working with multiple layers, especially in the sketching phase, you don't want to like group them and then ungroup them. You know, it's definitely a pain. So this is another feature that I'm really excited with for Krita. So I'm gonna turn that off. All right, another thing that they're doing is the text tool. So we're gonna click and drag after we activate it, and this pop-up is gonna show up here. So in the past, this has been a little, I don't want to say buggy, but a little frustrating at times to use. And even though I've always said if you want to use it, go ahead, I've always recommended maybe using a program that's a little easier to deal with when it comes to text. They have rewritten this so they can prepare for putting text on a path. You heard that correctly. Eventually, we're going to be able to put all these letters on a path that we make and just put it on there and make beautiful rounded objects with text all over it and everything else and all that good stuff. But it's not ready yet, and it is being worked on, and they said it will be out for 5.3, which I don't know how long it will take, but given Krita's history, that probably will be sometime next year. I would say probably end of next year to give them a couple, or most of the year to fix bugs and stuff for 5.2 and beyond. Yeah, because I think Krita 5.1.2 just came out recently. And but when I say recently, I mean like the past couple of months, this past year. So it is coming out and it is on its way. However, this is that I'm seeing, it is a little easier to use. Like it's more responsive. I don't feel any lag or any issues with it. I can go ahead and change everything that I want. I don't know what this is called. You can, I'm not like a graphic designer pro at this, but if you know what is happening here, you know the terminology, you're good to go. The spacing between the letters, this is pretty neat. So I changed, I think this is the kerning. Yeah, you change that. A lot of good stuff. It's pretty responsive to me. The format, superscript, I can do some script. You know, there's a lot of stuff you can do. But yeah, I was pretty happy with it. It's a little more responsive now. And when you click on it, you can go and change the fill-in stuff colors. If you double click on it, you can go back and edit the text. I recommend editing the text via the Docker. It's just easier to deal with. All right, so I'm going to close that. All right, so another thing that's new to Krita 5.2, or at least will be when it's out, is the wide gamut selector. It's a new color docker under settings, dockers, all the way at the bottom. And it's basically, if I go to down here for the color, you see on the advanced color selector, it doesn't change the outer ring. Over here, it does. It's basically the same value. So if you want to go to a red to match that same value, you can. And you just change the hue and then change saturation over here if you want. The outer ring, so I kind of struggled to get this outer ring. If you go to configure, you can go to the hue ring appearance. You can do static. So if we hit OK, it's just gonna do nothing. Okay, so this is gonna stay within the red range. So you're saying, all right, this is the red range and I'm moving my color selector all over the place for that. And you can go to configure dynamic, which is what we have by default, which is similar to the advanced color selector. Only this time, the ring right here is changing that value. And then to get the colorful outer ring, we can go to dynamic plus static edge. And this is kind of nice because that way, if you're like, all right, I'm working with some very saturated colors right now, and you not forget, but you want to go to more of a red range, you can just be like, oh, the red's over here. Or if you want to do more yellow, oh, yellow's up here. So you can see what it looks like with a more desaturated look, but you know where the yellow is, so you can kind of select it more accurately here. You can also switch between all these other color modes, hue, saturation. Don't remember what they all stand for. At some point I did in time, but I don't currently. You can change the appearance of it, which is pretty neat. So you don't get the fancy ring on this one, but you do get it for the triangle and the square. So if you're more familiar with this and you're more comfortable in the triangle, you can, oops, bring it back up. You can bring the triangle in. I kind of like it with the square, so if I do plan on using this, I'm going to be using the square. I'm not too sure yet. Again, this is the beta version and it's not like super accurate, or not super stable enough for me to keep using. I just wanted to share with you guys what it's like. There's some other stuff here for the configurator. I'm gonna play with those and I'm not entirely sure if this is for just this Docker and what it's really affecting, but we'll see. That'll be for when Krita 5.2 officially comes out and I have time to read the release notes and really get to know this new Docker. Alright, so that's kind of like the main things that I noticed with Krita 5.2. Like I said before, it's not super stable in my, like for me. When I opened it, a lot of the stuff up here was missing, so I had to reactivate it, which wasn't a big deal. It was just, where did I go? Tools, here you go. Like this is kind of empty. I think that, yeah, that was my undo and stuff like that. So it's not like a big deal that it wasn't there. It was just kind of like, all right, I got to reset Krita up. Same with the comics manager. It's not like cooperating the way I would expect it to. I did notice that using the navigator down here, or the overview Docker, sometimes the zoom in wouldn't work properly. I don't know if that was because my file size was really big, so like Krita was like freaking out, but it just didn't like it too much. So I can use it from the pop-up palette, but then using it from the overview, it would sometimes stop working. Alright, so that's it for this video. Hopefully this was an interesting introduction to 5.2. It's still in beta mode, but I thought it'd be cool to kind of like look around and see what's changing and what to expect for the final version. These are the biggest changes for me at this time. There's way more that they're working on, but I would like it to be the official download release before I go into those updates, just to make sure it's sturdy enough and none of the features that they're adding or tweaking are removed or changed further that would completely negate everything I would show you. So yeah, if you have any questions, as always, leave them down in the comment section below. Make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next video, and I will see you in the next one.